Welcome to my video. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today we're going to make a delicious dessert. Today we are going to make cake cookie sandwiches. And basically what that is, it's going to be 2 cake cookies combined together with frosting in the middle. Now, as you see, I already started some stuff in the mixing bowl. We're going to have 2 eggs, half a cup of oil. I'm using avocado oil, but you can use vegetable oil. That's what most people use. And then the only other ingredient we'll need is that box cake mix, which I'm using a chocolate cake mix that I picked up at Aldi. Now, I would like to state right off the bat, I know these look very similar to what is called a whoopie pie. And the only reason why I cannot call this a whoopie pie is because whoopie pies have a marshmallow filling in the middle. And like I said, this does not have any of that. We are just using regular vanilla frosting to combine the 2 cookies and make a little cookie cake sandwich. Which this really is such a fun dessert to make, super easy, really quick. Something fun that's just great to make for either just your family, any of the holidays, or any get-togethers. Because really at the end of the day, this recipe you can do so many things with. And what I mean by that is basically you can turn any cake mix into a cookie cake or a cake cookie, whatever you want to call it. Because all you need, like I said, is 2 eggs, a half a cup of oil, and then whatever cake mix you desire to make the cookies. And then as far as the frosting goes in the middle, you can really use whatever flavor you want, but I used vanilla frosting. So just something to keep in mind. And another thing about making these cake cookies, when it comes to mixing, you better have a strong arm because this batter is extremely thick. So just a heads up with that. But if you have a KitchenAid or a hand mixer, I guess you can do that and it will solve all your problems. But if you haven't already, you can set your stove to 350. That is what they will bake at. And these cookies only bake in the oven for 10 minutes. And the next most important step after you pull your cookies out of the oven is letting them sit for 5 minutes at least. That allows them to cool and kind of harden. So you just want to wait 5 minutes before you begin frosting your cookies. And in this video, I did use a piping bag with a frosting tip. Now, if you don't have that on hand, you don't have to use it. You can just scoop some frosting in the middle and put the 2 on top to make the sandwich. Also, this is the size I'm scooping before I roll it into a cookie ball. But anyways, like I was saying, you don't have to use a piping bag with a frosting tip. You can just put frosting in the middle and, put the other cookie on top. I just used a frosting bag with a frosting tip because it makes it look a little bit fancier and I already have it on hand. It's super affordable. If you do want to get some, I highly recommend just buying piping bags off of Amazon because you can get a bunch of piping bags for really cheap, and then you can get a set of frosting tips for, I believe it's as cheap as $6 for a complete set. So I do highly recommend checking that out because having frosting bags and frosting tips to frost your baked goods really makes a big difference / makes them look professional, which is always kind of nice. But once you have your whole sheet rolled out, you are going to pop them in the stove, like I said, for only 10 minutes. And this is what they look like after 10 minutes. And once again, like I said, let them sit for 5 minutes. And this is what they look like after 5 minutes. They are all ready to be frosted. So I'm going to flip them upside down because the frosting will go on the inside. And yes, I did not have an even number of cookies. So you don't need to point it out in the end when you clearly see me frost one that doesn't get a top put on top. I know, I just ate it that way because, I'm not picky. But anywho, let's get into frosting these cookie cakes or cake cookies. I don't think it matters which way you say it. But you can skip through if you don't want to watch me frost all these, but I'm not going to talk all the way through it. Since it's very self-explanatory what I'm doing right here, which is just going in a circle with my frosting bag, slash frosting tip. Just filling every other cookie completely full with some frosting. We don't do every single cookie because, like I said, we'll be placing the opposite cookie right on top and making that cake cookie sandwich. Alrighty, now it's time to assemble. Alright everyone, that's all you needed to do to make this delicious dessert. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much.